Mr. President, council members, and participants, we are now live.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. We're going to get started. But before we begin the council session, I'm just going to make a couple of announcements. Due to the continuing threat to public health from the COVID-19, the Delta variant, City Council is currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make this remote meeting possible. Instructions for how the public may view the meeting and offer public comment are included in the stated meeting notice that was published in the Daily News, the Enquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the meeting and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. The clerk will please call the roll to take attendance, and members that are in attendance, just say a couple of words to make sure that your image is displayed on the screen. Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Good morning, Mr. President, colleagues in the city of Philadelphia. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues in the city of Philadelphia. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman Dom.
Morning, Council President, colleagues, Rabbi Myers, and the City of Philadelphia. Present.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues in Philadelphia. Present.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues, and good morning to the city of sisterly love.
Morning.
Councilman Green.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the city of brotherly love and sisterly effectiveness.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gim.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman Heenan.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman Johnson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Sending out prayers to all the families who have lost their loved ones to senseless gun violence.
Good morning.
Councilman Jones.
Mr. President, colleagues, Philadelphia, good morning. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman O.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman O'Neill. Councilwoman Parker.
Good morning, Mr. President, colleagues, and to the people of our city, and Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson. The red is beautiful.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Quinone Sanchez.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman Squilla.
Morning, President, colleagues, present.
Good morning.
Councilman Thomas.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the listening public. I'm present.
Good morning.
Council President Clark.
And I'm obviously present. Good morning. Quorum is established, and we will now come to order.
Council President, Councilman O'Neill, present.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Councilman.
Yes, sir.
Councilman O'Neill is
right on cue, right as it starts.
Absolutely. Before we call for the rabbi for our invocation, the chair would like to recognize Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to say I invited Rabbi Jeffrey Myers to begin this important final council session of 2021 because he's no stranger to tragedy and adversity. In fact, on October 27, 2018, the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh was the site of the worst anti-Semitic attack on U.S. soil. Since surviving this horrific event, Rabbi Myers has worked tirelessly to help communities overcome hate through connection and understanding. I appreciate him joining us from the other side of the state today and for his work to heal communities in times of struggle. Thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. And to give our invocation this morning, the chair will recognize the Rabbi Hazan Jeffrey Myers of the Tree of Life congregation. He is here today as the guest of Councilman Dom. I would ask all members and guests to please bow your heads for the invocation.
Honorable Mr. Clark, Councilman Dom, who extended this invitation, members of the City Council, I'm honored to be present with you virtually this morning to offer prayer to open your meeting. I bring greetings from the western part of the Commonwealth to the easternmost part of the Commonwealth. While I have the opportunity in person, I want to extend the appreciation of all of the Tree of Life family for your strong resolution that occurred after the horrific massacre on October 27, 2018, and for your words of support. The real question is, what is the best type of prayer to offer the Philadelphia City Council, who represents the city of love? It is Jewish practice to pray 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening. There are elements of the liturgy found in all 3 services, with the core being a collection of 19 blessings, whereby we pray to God for healing for those who are ill and forgiveness for sin, for example. What is the most telling is what the final blessing seeks. Of all the possible final blessings, what might be the one that culminates this section? The liturgists chose a blessing for peace, because they felt that if one had peace, it covered all of the previous blessings. Most of you might be familiar with the Hebrew word for peace, shalom. The interesting thing about this word is that its root, the source of the word, does not mean peace. Rather, it means wholeness or completeness. So how do we get from wholeness or completeness to peace? Simply put, when you feel whole and complete, you are at peace. To greet someone and wish them shalom is indeed the greatest blessing one can bestow upon someone else, for you are wishing them wholeness and completeness. Thus, the prayer that I offer you this morning is my blessing for peace, and I will offer the text found in our daily prayer book. Grant universal peace with happiness, blessing, grace, love, and mercy for us and for all people. Bless us, our Creator, one and all, with your light. For you have given us, by that light, the guide to a life of caring, filled with generosity and contentment, kindness and well-being, and peace. May it please you to bless all people in every season and at all times with your gift of peace. Praised are you, O God, who blesses all people with peace. I wish all of you shalom.
Shalom. Thank you so much, Rabbi. We really appreciate the spiritual guidance this morning. So
Thank you for the privilege.
Thank you again for being here this morning. And our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, December 9th, 2021. And Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
23rd of December, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, December 9th, 2021 be approved.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, December 9th, 2021 stand approved. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it, and our journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the members of council, there are no requests for leaves of absence today.
Councilwoman. And the chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion concerning certain legislative matters that may arise during the course of today's session of council and that were not necessarily listed on the calendar circulated prior to today's session.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that any of the following matters, if considered today, may be added to the agenda for this session of council and, as required by law, subsequently published on an amended agenda after the consideration of those matters: resolutions authorizing hearings, amendments to bills on first reading, the reconsideration of a bill vetoed by or recalled from the mayor, resolutions taking substantive action to be voted on in this session, a motion to withdraw a bill or resolution that is not on the calendar, and a motion placing a bill or resolution on or returning a bill or resolution from the suspension calendar that is not listed on today's calendar. The purpose of this motion is to provide the public with notice concerning possible actions by council that arose too late to be included on the calendar that was published prior to today's session.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the legislative matters stated by Councilwoman Parker may be added to the agenda for today should those matters arise during the course of this council session. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and the motion carries. And our next order of business is communication. And Mr. Decker, please read the messages from the mayor and any other communications that you may have in your possession.
The mayor to the president and members of the council of the city of Philadelphia. Pursuant to sections 4604 and 2307 of the Home Rule Charter, I am today transmitting to the council the recommendation of the City Planning Commission on the following bills. Bill numbers 210922, 210926, 210930, 210931, 210932, 210933, and 210957. And I'm pleased to advise you that on December 10 and December 15, 2021, I signed the remaining bills that were passed by council at a session on December 2, 2021, except bill number 210808, which I am returning without my signature. And then on December 15, 2021, I signed bill numbers 210771, 210901A, 210924, and 210925, which were passed by council at its session on December 9, 2021. And I am transmitting for the consideration of your honorable body a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to certain city-owned lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 5th Councilmanic District of the City of Philadelphia, and further authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to transfer to the Philadelphia Land Bank fee simple title to such properties, and a resolution approving the appointment of Seth Bluestein as City Commissioner to fill out the unexpired term of a vacant seat in the office of the City Commissioners, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions. And by way of a reminder, we're asking that all resolutions, including privileged resolutions, be placed on the final passage calendar for our next session of council, unless they're being referred to committee. In our current remote environment, this procedure will provide the appropriate opportunity for public comment. I want to thank you in advance for your anticipated cooperation. Mr. Decker, please read the titles of the legislations being offered today by our members.
Councilwoman Parker offers on behalf of Council President Clark a resolution calling on Mayor James F. Kenny and his administration to work collaboratively with City Council in the creation of a local job placement task force. Mr. President, Councilwoman Parker would like to be recognized for a motion on your behalf on this resolution.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman, you're on mute. She was having some challenges on her phone. I believe that
we're just anticipating a motion for rule suspension, Mr. President, for make consideration today of this resolution.
Yeah, Councilman Jones.
So moved.
No, you have to make it, I think. I don't think Mr. Decker can do it.
All right. I'd like to make a motion. Go ahead. I move
Thank you,
that.
Mr. President.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit immediate consideration of this resolution.
Second.
All in favor of motion, indicate by saying aye.
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 I had you.
Thank you.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion passes. That resolution will be on today's calendar.
You stepped in and saved him.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson offers a resolution calling on the Pennsylvania General Assembly to reject House Bills 412, 1332, 1642, and any other legislative initiatives that decrease funding for public schools and further inequities in our educational systems.
Councilwoman, is this the one you were asking for suspension?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit consideration of this resolution on today's final passage calendar.
Second.
Second.
Been moved and probably second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that will be the final passage calendar.
Councilman Jones offers one bill entitled an ordinance establishing no truck or trailer parking regulations on North 60th Street between West Oxford Street and Clifford Terrace, both sides, North 61st Street between West Oxford Street and Clifford Terrace, both sides, and West Columbia Avenue between North 60th Street and North 61st Street, both sides.
Heard the committee.
Councilman Johnson offers one bill and three resolutions. Entitled an ordinance authorizing encroachments in the nature of a sidewalk cafe in the vicinity of 762 South 10th Street.
For the committee.
And a resolution. And on behalf of Council President Clark, a resolution urging the Biden administration and the United States Department of Justice to finalize a proposed rule that would close a regulatory loophole and require ghost gun kit makers to include serial numbers in firearm kits and require federally licensed firearms dealers to conduct background checks prior to the sale of these firearm kits.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson. Motion.
Yeah, Council President, I move that the rules of council be suspended as for the inner city warriors resolution in order to permit consideration for today's council session.
Second.
We're on a different resolution, Mr. President.
Councilman Johnson, that was the suspension on the rules on the ghost gun resolution.
Yes, sir. Okay, I'll wait till you read it. I apologize, Council President.
I read it. I need you to call for a motion for suspension of the rules to allow reading.
Oh, so we're voting on the ghost bills gun today?
Yeah, that's why we're asking you for a suspension.
Yep. Sure, sir. Council President, I move that the rules of council be suspended so that we can vote on the Biden administration ghost bills gun resolution during today's council session.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution will be on today's final passage calendar.
Councilman Johnson also offers a resolution authorizing the Special Committee on Gun Violence Prevention to conduct hearings to examine our national youth mental health crisis and its role in the ongoing epidemic of gun violence.
That will be on today's final passage calendar.
And Councilman Johnson offers a resolution honoring the Inner City Warriors youth football team for winning the National United Youth Football League 2021 championship in Plant City, Florida.
Did you want a suspension on that also?
Absolutely, Council President. Council President, I move that the rules be suspended as to this for the Inner City Warriors resolution in order to permit consideration at today's council session.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. And that will be on today's final passage calendar.
Councilwoman Sanchez offers one bill and one resolution entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 2600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Standards of Conduct and Ethics, including Section 2607 entitled Conflict of Interest and Section 2610 entitled Statement of Financial Interests to regulate and restrict the receipt of outside income.
For the committee.
And a resolution calling for the creation of the School District of Philadelphia Building Authority Work Group.
Councilwoman, are you requesting a suspension or not? Not clear.
No suspension required. Thank you, Council President.
You said no? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. Next council session calendar.
Councilwoman Gautier offers one bill and one resolution entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 14600 of the Chapter 16400 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Surplus Properties by adding criteria for evaluating non-competitive dispositions.
For the committee.
And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia City Council Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless to conduct public hearings to explore the crisis of expiring affordable housing subsidies, the impact of these expirations on the availability of affordable housing in the city of Philadelphia, and the use of the scattered site model to increase the number of available affordable units.
Today's calendar.
Councilman Thomas offers one resolution entitled a resolution honoring and congratulating Champion of the Week, John Bartram High School football team on their successful 2021 season and winning their first District 12 4A Public League title in 45 years.
Wow. Next week's calendar. Sorry, next session's calendar.
Councilman O offers one resolution declaring March 25, 2022 as Belarusian Heritage Day in recognition of the contributions of Belarusian Americans in the city of Philadelphia.
Will be on next session's calendar.
There are no other bills or resolutions being offered today by the members, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes the introduction of bills and resolutions. And our next order of business is reports from committee. And the chair recognizes Councilman Green for a report from the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Council President. The Committee on Finance reports out one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee on Finance, to which was referred Bill number 210956, entitled, An Ordinance Signifying the Intention of the City of Philadelphia to Organize the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority, pursuant to authority established under state law, and amending chapters 2600, Standards of Conduct and Ethics, 2200, Lobbying, and 171400, Non-Competitively Bid Contracts, Financial Assistance, of the Philadelphia Code, to address ethics, contractual, and other requirements applicable to the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority, all under certain terms and conditions, respectfully reports it as considered and amended the same, and returns the attached bill to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. The chair again recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill number 210956.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and probably second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 210956. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. This bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. And our next order of business is consideration of the calendar. I note that the bill just reported from committee with suspension of the rules have been deemed to have had its first reading and will be on its final passage at our next session of council. As there are no additional bills on the first reading calendar, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion concerning the resolutions on the final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the following resolutions on the final passage calendar today. They are resolution numbers 210960, 210961, 210991, 210992, 210993, 210994, 210995, 210996, 210997, 210998, 210999, 211000, 211001, 211002, 211003, 211004, 211008, 211009, 211010, 211011, 211012, and 211013. And Whip Jones, please stay close because it's coming in and out, okay?
Second. Got you.
Thank you. It's been moved and probably second that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the resolutions just read by Councilwoman Parker. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries, and we will consider the resolution consent agenda shortly. The chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion concerning the bills on the second reading and final passage of council.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the following bills on the second reading and final passage calendars today. They are numbers 210689, 210899, 210926, 210782, 210783, 210864, 210629, 210867, 210918, 210919, 210921, 210929, 210930, 210931, 210932, and 210920.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and probably second that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the bills just read by Councilwoman Parker. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries, and we will consider the consent agenda shortly. The chair, one more time, recognizes Councilwoman Parker for the purpose of calling up bills and resolutions on the regular second reading and final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. In addition to the resolutions and bills being considered on the consent agendas, the following resolutions and bills are being called up from the second reading and final passage calendars today. They are numbers 210692, 210633A, 210917A, 210669, and 210923. Mr. President, all other bills and resolutions are being held.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. So before we proceed, we're going to consider the public comment. We will now take a brief 5 to 10 minute recess to give our technology professionals an opportunity to connect our speakers today. Take a brief recess. Thank you.
Council President, we are live again.
Thank you. And good afternoon, good morning again. We are back. We're going to start our public comment session. So now that everyone is connected to the meeting, and before considering the resolutions and bills we have before us today, we will consider our public comment session. It will go as follows. Public comment must concern matters on the second reading and final passage calendar for possible action at a session of council. A speaker on any of those matters must sign up in order to testify. You must call 215-686-3406 by 3 p.m. the day before the session to sign up for public comment. When you call, we will take your name, phone number, the number of the legislative item you are commenting on, and whether you are in support of or against the legislation, and add your name to the list. We will then telephone each person on the list during the council session and invite them to our remote meeting. Today, we will have 2 minutes to speak, so please adjust your testimony and reflect that. We have a significant volume of people today, and we want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to be on. In order to be fair, all those wishing to speak, I intend to hold faithfully to the established time limit. So once invited to the meeting and you ask to begin your testimony, a timer will be started. We will monitor your remaining time throughout your testimony, and when there are 30 seconds remaining to your time, you will be reminded of this. Once your allotted time has passed, you will be asked to conclude your remarks, and shortly thereafter, you will be muted and disconnected from the remote meeting. We traditionally reserve the right to limit the number of speakers where repetitious comments are being made on the same subject matter, which could affect callbacks for public comment at the meeting. Please be aware that the public meeting is being recorded. So because the meeting is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. So by continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. We'll now ask Mr. Decker to please read the name of our first speaker.
The first speaker we have today is Walt Reeder, commenting on 210999.
Good morning. State your name for the record, and please proceed with your testimony.
The BPC. We are the Black Promoter Collective. I'm the talent buyer for the group. We are a national entity of top Black promoters that have gotten together to control and take back our culture in the form of touring Black and urban concerts. I want to thank you for the resolution, and I am also in favor of the bill that has been placed forward. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Reeder, just for the record, just say your name. Oh, we didn't get it.
Walt Reeder, Jr.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Rita Hawk.
Good morning. State your name for the record and please proceed with your testimony.
My name is Rita Hawk, and I'm here to speak on resolution number 210995, recognizing my organization, Philadelphia VIP, for its work expanding access to justice for 40 years. In a city with a robust private legal sector, but also one where an overwhelming percentage of the population lives at or near the poverty level, VIP offers a solution. By leveraging the city's private legal sector for over 40 years, recruiting and training attorneys who volunteer to represent Philadelphians free of charge, VIP has secured over 9,000 volunteer attorneys to benefit over 23,000 Philadelphians and their families during pivotal life moments. This is a mission of empowerment. We support our volunteer community in empowering their neighbors and fighting back against legal threats to their incomes, their housing, both rented and owned, their family stability, and their hard-earned small businesses. On behalf of our board and staff team, I want to express my gratitude to the community, including council members and staff on this call, who enabled this mission to continue today. Thank you, Councilwoman Parker, for proposing this recognition and for being a thoughtful and committed partner over your many years serving as a bridge between VIP services and your constituents.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Mindy Iser, commenting on 211010.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hi. Oh, hi.
Station
Is this, am I doing this right?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I assume I'm doing this right. My name is Mindy Iser. I'm calling on behalf of the resolution honoring Ron Whitehorn. If anyone has read the text of the resolution, they will see what a wonderful, storied, big life Ron has lived. And I think the most amazing work that he's done has actually been as a mentor and a friend to so many younger organizers and activists who are just trying to understand how the world works and how to change it, myself included. Earlier this year, Ron got into a very, very bad bike accident, and for a short while, it was not clear what his recovery would look like. And it was so scary, obviously, for a number of reasons. A friend being sick is obviously very bad, but also the knowledge and wisdom and kindness, the potential for that to be lost was just too much to bear. And so I think so many of us are so happy and grateful that he is doing so well, and really grateful to Councilmember Brooks for putting this resolution forward. And so I urge all of City Council to support this bill honoring Ron Whitehorn, unless you have been a thorn in his side in the past, in which case it would make sense if you didn't support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
J.R. Reeves, commenting on 210961.
Good morning. Just state your name for the record and please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning to all. I hope everybody is doing well. To the council president, to the members of the council members, in particular to those that sponsored Resolution 210-96100. Good morning, all. My name is J.R. Reeves. I am proud to serve as the 27th Eastern Regional Director of the mighty Eastern Region of the Men of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. We represent the over 3,500 members of the mighty Eastern Region. We have membership representing the Northeastern Corridor, the Mid-Atlantic Corridor, as far away as the Caribbean and the Virgin Islands, in Europe, as well as in the motherland in Accra, Ghana, in Africa. We are pleased that we are bringing our Eastern Regional Conference to the city of brotherly love, to Philadelphia. That will take place March 31st through April 3rd, 2022, in downtown Philadelphia. We espouse the virtues of brotherhood, scholarship, and service, and we are so excited to not just leave these virtues with you, but also to deposit a great deal of money in our spend while we're in Philadelphia.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony and thank you for your work. Appreciate it.
The next speaker is Brian Bishara, commenting on 210899.
Good morning. I'll state your name for the record and please proceed with your testimony.
This is Brian Bishara. I'm calling about bill number 210922. I'm the owner of Fountain Street Auto. It's the corner of Ridge and Fountain Street. The councilman who I respect and I understand where he's coming from, the overdevelopment in Roxborough. He's proposing to change the zoning here, and I feel like that we're being targeted, and I don't think this is fair. There is going to be a development next door to our building that is on a lot, the same exact square footage, and they're proposed to already pass through zoning to build a 6-story building, and they want to decrease our zoning from CM 2.5 to CA1. We are an auto repair shop. CA1 is not included for auto repair in that business. We would be grandfathered in, but we don't think it's fair for ourselves and my family that has developed this business for the last 20 years in Philadelphia, that we won't be able to sell it, and it'll decrease the value of the business due to that reason. We also can only develop 60% of the property when before we could develop 75%. So it's a major decrease. And if we ever want to expand the business or make it bigger, we would have to go to zoning and cost us a lot more money and variance problems. We're trying to avoid that. We just don't understand the theory here. We thought we wanted more affordable housing for Roxborough, and this seems to be kind of contradicting that bill would stop that. If we're looking for more affordable housing, I don't understand why we want to stop the building and cut down businesses. We got a lot of businesses that are affected by this. They're all a lot of older businesses. Few of them been here since the 60s, and they were getting their zoning changed also. I don't agree with the bill. I do respect the councilman and the overdevelopment, but I don't think we should be penalized for it, especially us being a corner property and a prime spot in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Renee Fatah, commenting on 210996.
Good morning. I'll state your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, Council President Clark and council members. My name is Renee Chenault Fatah, and I'm here to speak on Resolution 210996. And I want to thank Councilmember Sherelle Parker for introducing this resolution, recognizing the 10th anniversary of Philadelphia Lawyers for Social Equity, or PULSE. I'm the executive director of PULSE. And while I'm new to the organization, PULSE is not new in the arena of social justice and equity. PULSE was founded a decade ago by civil rights attorneys. Many of you in the room know Mike Lee and Ryan Hancock, who went into communities, heard general consensus on the challenge that people were facing around criminal records. These are our friends, our coworkers, our neighbors, people who did something maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago, went to prison, served their time, didn't have any more problems with the law, but were still being kept back from job and education opportunities because of a criminal record. So PULSE was formed to provide legal services around expungements and pardons. This past October, we filed our 25,000th expungement petition, and we're closing in on 26,000 by the end of next week. And in the coming year, we've set an ambitious goal of helping Philadelphians file 1,000 pardons. So we're going into communities, providing clinics and information outreach and intake in the spirit of the community model created by the late Reverend Dr. Leon Sullivan, who believed that change happens when it's organic from our communities. So we are working with the faith-based leaders and trusted community organizations to spread the word on the power of pardons and expungement as a way to provide a second chance, a better jobs always, as we know, an answer to crime, and as a way to lift our communities out of poverty. This resolution that you hopefully will pass today helps us spread the word. So on behalf of all of us at PULSE, on behalf of the justice-involved community of which I'm a member, thank you for acknowledging our work. Know that we support and lift the important work you're doing every day. Have a safe and happy holiday. And again, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Sean Moss, commenting on 210929.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony.
My name is Sean Moss. I am opposing ordinance 210929. I am not a special interest or anything. I'm a private citizen from District 5. And I oppose this ordinance because it's number one, it's non-specific, establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of, it should be establishing parking regulations as necessary in the vicinity of these things. Handicap parking regulation, I think, is fine, but there's already too much parking regulation in the city to begin with. And number two, I'm not confident that the money accrued from parking meters, electronic meters, or parking violations, for example, will be reinvested into improving the quality of life for Philadelphians. It wasn't that long ago that there was a corruption trial here in council. So I'm not confident that the funds will be appropriated correctly. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Linda Bell, commenting on 210434.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Excuse me. Please proceed with your testimony.
My name.
Hello, Ms. Bell? Bell, you still connected?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we have you now. Yeah, just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Okay. My name is Linda Bell, and I'm a CPI alum and board member of East Mount Airy Neighbors. I had 3 bills or 4 bills to speak on, and they only mentioned one. Which one am I supposed to be speaking on now?
Well, you had 2 minutes to speak on whatever bill you may. If you can speak on all 4 in 2 minutes, please do so.
Okay, I want to speak on and support bill number 210434, Councilman O, for a resolution for minimum force training, and bill 211008, Councilmember Johnson's resolution for calling for the General Assembly to prohibit the use of deadly force and the citizen's arrest. And Bill 210396, Councilmember Parker's temporary stay on mortgage and tax foreclosures. I also want to support Bill 210692, 210669, which a colleague from Citywide RCO Coalition will speak on later and read a letter talking about the ZBA reform. I also want to talk about Bill 210991. I'm opposed to the term BIPOC being used in that bill because the term POC, people of color, was a phrase chosen by Black, Latinos, and Native Americans and Asian and Pacific Islanders activists in the 90s to actively decenter whiteness. It came to replace the terms non-white and minorities that carried with them the idea that we were less than. But the substitution of BIPOC just doesn't accomplish the same goal. Beyond the confusion of what it stands for, when you insist on naming Black people separately from other people of color, BIPOC does, you are in effect claiming that Black people aren't people of color, though Black people coined that phrase. So I just humbly request that you strike that term from your submission of that bill 210991. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker we have on the line is Abraham Reyes Pardo, commenting on 210920.
Good morning. State your name for the record, and please proceed with your testimony.
Hi, good morning. This is Abraham Reyes Pardo. I'm the Director of Housing at the Urban League of Philadelphia, a HUD-approved housing counseling agency. I'm part of a team of 7 HUD-approved housing counselors dedicated to provide guidance for tenants participating in the eviction diversion program. Today, I'm here to support bill number 210920. Back on September of 2020, the Urban League of Philadelphia was prompt to answer the call from the City of Philadelphia and join the then emerging eviction diversion program. Here we are almost 15 months and thousands of cases later. To say that the coalition of agencies led by the city has made this a very successful program will be an understatement. Many of the cases entering the process have been resolved or discontinued before the scheduled hearing, which also means less stress added onto an already overloaded court system. In addition to providing safe space to review these cases in detail, the existence of this program has allowed us to look closer at and address some of the current fair housing violations that otherwise will have gone unreported. Part of the cause being the dynamic between landlords and tenants. Some tenants can choose to forego basic living conditions in fear of retaliation in the form of excessive fees or an eviction filing. With a handful of firms, of law firms handling or filing the vast majority of these cases, the program helps us to identify areas for collaboration. We continue to learn from each other's perspective, having the concerns of tenants and landlords at stake. If the collected data has proven anything, is that many of these cases do not belong in court, particularly referring to disputes involving significantly small balances that could be easily satisfied through a repayment plan. The Urban League of Philadelphia supports the continuation of the eviction diversion program and will continue to advocate for under-resourced and struggling tenants. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Jacob Spidell, commenting on 210920.
Good morning, and thank you for Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, yes. Good morning, and thank you for taking the time to consider this important issue our city is facing. My name is Jacob Spidell, and I'm the Director of Tenant Rights at Senior Law Center. I'm here to support passage of bill number 210920. At Senior Law Center, we seek justice for older adults. We're the only nonprofit organization in Pennsylvania whose mission is dedicated solely to providing legal services to seniors. While families and individuals across Philadelphia have been devastated by the COVID-19 pandemic, older Philadelphians have been hardest hit.
They've been the most at risk for the virus and the most likely to have severe health consequences and the most likely to die. Housing has never been more crucial. Senior Law Center represents people 60 years of age and older, including tenants facing evictions, lack of repairs or discrimination. We also represent landlords who are facing abuse or financial exploitation. We support today's legislation to continue Philadelphia's highly successful eviction diversion program. The Philadelphia Municipal Court's authority to continue to extend the requirement for landlord participation is ending at the end of this month. Today's legislation is needed to extend the successful eviction diversion program. Philadelphia's eviction diversion program is a pre-filing program that has been operational for over a year now and has received local, state, and national attention. Governor Wolf has called Philadelphia's program a national model, and the DOJ has held out Philadelphia's program as a national model. Philadelphia's eviction diversion program benefits both landlords and tenants. For landlords, the program connects them to mediators who can improve communication with tenants and resolve problems, while giving courts the capacity to schedule speedy hearings for the landlords that need court hearings. Unlike most legal services organizations, Senior Law Center represents both low-income older landlords and tenants. We've seen firsthand how these programs benefit landlords and tenants. The Philadelphia Diversion Program has been enormously successful.
Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity to testify, and we appreciate your taking the time to consider this issue.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Bonita Cummings, commenting on 210-669 and 210-692.
Good morning. State your name
Good
from the record.
morning.
Proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed.
Okay. Good morning, Council President and members of City Council. My name is Bonita Cummings, and I'm the Director of Strawberry Mansion Community Concern and a member of the Citywide RCO Coalition of Philadelphia. The need for Resolution number 210692 and Bill number 210669 appealing to the electors is due to the overzealous change of the Philadelphia zoning code in 2011 and becoming effective in 2012. The change to the zoning code signals attack and conquer on vulnerable neighborhoods assisted by our zoning board practices. Failure of developers to act in an empathetic human state for my neighborhood of Strawberry Mansion has led to lynchings behind the walls of developers' buildings. 2848 West Diamond Street has trapped the mural art of African-American musician John Coltrane, and at 3006, 3008 Ridge Avenue, or the corner of Ridge and Diamond, our revered civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. was desecrated and his body laid shattered on the sidewalk for days, with his arm being left behind the wall of a huge new development. All our holy books tell us that life is in the spirit, and therefore the spirit of these great leaders who sacrificed for the world were treated by developers with their conglomerate of investors, banks, and design companies like trash. These egregious acts must be rectified. So this legislation is one aspect of correction to what is wrong with the development and vulnerable communities. However, this legislation ballot question, if passed in May 2022, won't go into effect until October 2022. In addition, council must take an overhaul approach to our zoning code now. So we ask that our at-large members with their district council members pause this trauma on neighborhoods, call for some town hall meetings, and let the residents have a say. Most times when the neighborhoods are hearing about the changes for their neighborhood, it is too late, or they can't make council hearings or meetings and sit all day due to need for work for survival of their families. Last, our present zoning process has led to an increase in white wealth as compared to black and brown wealth. 10% of 100 apartment units is 10 units. No matter how you cut it, mixed income housing, etc., the 90% is wealth and the 10% is wealth to the same owner because affordable is subsidized at market rate rent. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thanks for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Odessa Tate, commenting on 210-669 and 210-692.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Proceed.
Hello, everyone. My name is Odessa Tate of All in the Family CDC and Strawberry Mansion, and I'm also a member of the Citywide RCO Coalition. I'm in support of Bill number 210669, Resolution 210692 of the ZBA reform. Democracy is for the people, and the leaders of the city have a grave responsibility to its residents to ensure security, protection, and fairness. The city zoning code impacts all of Philadelphians through land use and is pivotal in the long-term impact of our microcosm socially and economically. The ZBA is critical in the city's survival with land use impact, Having the power to grant variances does not only impact development changes, but can also contribute to mental, emotional, and environmental stressors for individuals. Having adequate representation to make informed and well-rounded decisions can help the city's credibility with people and development. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for considering making these appropriate changes to ensure support for the ZBA to help them best support the people and eradicating development challenges. The message from many people and communities throughout the metropolis are clear. There are more conducive ways to create opportunities for larger, mid-sized, multi-unit development. It's been mentioned before about the use of old factories, warehouses, and even commercial buildings to accommodate such living. Some areas are more appropriate than others to create multifamily usage or larger scale development. For the ZBA, having someone represented with demonstrated sensitivity to community concerns regarding development and the protection of the character of Philadelphia's neighborhood balances expertise and objectives. And each community and economic development plan should include decent housing opportunities for low income, accessibility, and affordability for the community's economic health. We need teachers, firefighters, police officers, municipal employees, healthcare workers, and people of other professions to have access to safe, affordable housing. We also cannot disregard the elderly demographic on a fixed income and people starting out in careers with student loan debt. We need communities with age and income diversity, not ballooning incidences of individuals spending the majority of their earnings on higher rent, mortgages, and property taxes. We have many issues within our communities, and displacement should not add to the system. We need to achieve a healthy balance to build sustainable communities. Home ownership is a form of wealth that everyone is deserving of the opportunity to obtain. There's no stability in communities full of rental.
State. Yeah, I need you to.
Yes.
Can you wrap it up?
I'm sorry. Communities have the right to control their narratives, and displacement and discourse should not be an option. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is the Reverend Chester Williams, commenting on 210669 and 210692.
Good morning, everyone. This is Reverend
morning.
Chester H. Williams. Glad to see you all. I want to say thank God for this opportunity. I'm the president and founder of the Chew and Belfield Neighborhood Organization since 1981. And I'm also a supporter and a partner in the citywide RCO coalition. I'd like to say thank you, President of City Council, for writing up this resolution. I thank God for you getting the wisdom to restructure it, and for the City Council, your members, to support you. We support you wholeheartedly for this bill, which is 210692. We'd like to say also, I pray that each and every one of you continue praying for God to give you wisdom, that you can understand the significance of the importance of the community to have a voice. We were organized in RCOs to have a voice to represent the community. Please don't take that from us. We also like to say, as we see new developments are coming in and trying to build buildings 3 and 4 stories high in a commercial, in a residential area where there's family owning their property, we pray that you do not overlook what we've come through in the past. We do not need projects anymore. And these buildings, to me and others, look as though they're building them high enough to bring back the old structure that's a different face to say and to look as a project. People don't need to be cattle in no more. They don't need cattle up on top of each other. They need space to live and to breathe and to think. We're asking you, help us not to let this go into a structured building that we look up, and Philadelphia be all over the city having buildings structured and stacking people on top of that looks like the old-fashioned project, but back to the old way. We congratulate you on this, and we pray the next steps go forth to help to reorganize the ZBZ even more and more and more, and also restructure the CDR also. Thank you, thank you, thank you. May God bless all of you, and we praying faithfully and constantly for all the city council. God bless.
Thank you, Reverend. We appreciate the testimony.
Next speaker is Michael Koo, commenting on 210669 and 210692.
Good morning. And please proceed.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Koo. Thank you for inviting me to speak. I'm also addressing the bills for reform of the ZBA. I'm a member of the 46th Ward Democratic RCO, so I'd like to express my support for all the comments made by people previously, the last 2-3 speakers, and I'd also like to express my support for a letter written by Lou Baum, also of the 46th Ward Democratic RCO, which I think will be read into the record at some point. Both the speakers and the letter make excellent points regarding the desirability of ZBA reform, which I urge you to vote for. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Crystal Morris, commenting on 210669 and 210692.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Crystal Morris, president of the Winfield Residents Association, and I'm reading a statement of the 46th Ward Democratic RCO, along with other citywide RCO coalition members that I will identify later. We support Council President Clark's ZBA reform referendum to change the composition of the ZBA and allow for City Council's advice and consent regarding the mayor's appointments to the body. With the present ZBA, we have continually experienced one-sidedness, both in decisions and also the way meetings are being run. In fact, an astounding 92% of recent ZBA decisions have gone in favor of the applicant, despite sometimes explicit rules in the Philadelphia Code governing ZBA decisions. Community leaders and members have been subject to interruption and disrespect when testifying. Many Philadelphians, your constituents, are disappointed and frustrated with the present situation and need to be better served. We feel that a more professional approach will benefit all involved. A more diverse and qualified board will help to increase community trust of this important city institution. When outcomes are based on application of the law, costs may actually go down. We believe that City Council's advice and consent would be an important check and balance to help ensure that the best people are appointed and that appointees will be judicious and respectful of city code and city residents. We're asking you to please support ZBA reform and vote for the referendum. Sincerely, Catherine Blunt from the 46th Ward Democratic RCO, Mark Harris from Cathedral Park, CDC, Crystal Morris from Winfield Residents, Reverend Chester Williams from Chew and Belfield Neighbors Club, and Eloise Young on behalf of HMC Squared Community Association. Also, communities are being decimated by aggressive development. We desperately need council members to stand with us and, more importantly, for us. We understand this will not solve all problems, but passing this bill and resolution will be a great start. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
Mr. President, we're going to return to the previous page in the list and call Vince Patel, who is now on the line, 2109 to speak on 210920.
Thank you. Good morning. Just state your name for the record and proceed.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Vic Patel from Community Legal Services. I'm a supervising attorney in the housing unit, and I'm here to speak on behalf of bill number 210920. So this bill will extend the requirement that landlords participate in the Philadelphia Eviction Diversion Program, which has been an enormous success. Before the pandemic, Philadelphia had over 19,000 eviction filings per year. In 2021, thanks to the success of the diversion program, there have been just over 6,000 eviction filings. This is an incredible reduction in filings, which has enabled households most at risk to maintain some sense of stability in these very unstable times. Now, the diversion program has been very successful with mediating disputes between landlords and tenants. When landlords and tenants both engage in mediation, they've been able to reach a resolution 93% of the time. Now, this is because the diversion program matches tenants with Philadelphia's well-trained network of housing counselors, what we heard from one earlier today. These housing counselors meet with the tenants, review their finances, connect them with rental assistance or other resources, and support them through the mediation process. Now, a year ago, when a landlord would come to file in court, they had to wait 4 to 5 months before they could get a hearing. This is because of the huge backlog of cases as a result of the pandemic. Now, because of the diversion program and the requirement that landlords participate in that program, the wait time has dropped to be about 30 days. Without the diversion requirement, Philadelphia risks overwhelming the court system with cases that could easily be resolved through mediation. Community Legal Services is a proud part of the coalition that has helped to build the eviction diversion program and is going to continue to work to improving and growing it. We strongly support this program and ask that you support it by voting for this bill today. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Valerie Ross, commenting on 210669 and 210692.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. I'm Val Ross, co-founder of Citywide RCO Coalition of Philadelphia and of RCO WP3P, here to speak in strong support of the bill and resolution for ZBA reform, and to thank you, President Clark, and the council members who put it forward. Our coalition resulted from RCOs across the city recognizing that the ZBA badly needed reform, unqualified, out of control. It's turned its back on participatory democracy, the heart of urban planning and city government. The trial of former ZBA Chair John Doherty has fully displayed the dangers of allowing a mayor to handpick members of this powerful board, giving private interest control over public matters. The mayor then replaced Mr. Doherty with Frank DiCiccio, a developer's consultant, contemptuous of any who interfered with developers' interests, jovially joining with developers' attorneys to silence, rebut, rebuke, and ridicule community members and RCOs protesting appeals. He allowed developers' attorneys to control Zoom screens, speakers, and speech, and he and his fellow board members went along rubber stamping 92% of all appeals. A rigged game, developer attorneys and lobbyists larded hearings with sketches and talks of design density parking, and meanwhile residents and RCOs objecting to these same things were told their remarks were irrelevant. Our coalition was shocked at how unqualified and riddled with conflicts of interest our ZBA is, and how unusual that such a powerful organization undergoes no oversight and has no qualifications required. To quote a California judge, the power to rezone is the power to create great wealth, and using that power wrongfully is just as bad as stealing public money. The ZBA's decisions have harmed our city's most vulnerable neighborhoods, wiping out affordable housing stock, jacking up prices, destroying coherent neighborhoods, and pushing out small businesses and long-term residents, including 30,000 Black residents in the last 10 years. The ZBA ignores the only legal grounds for granting an appeal, demonstrating unnecessary hardship because, frankly, they don't have the credentials to do so, even if they had the will. Our city needs and deserves a qualified, vetted, forward-thinking ZBA capable of applying the zoning code and grasping how thoughtless decisions promote environmental, infrastructural, economic damage, social and racial injustice, crime, despair, and homelessness. It may take a little work to find qualified members and vet them, but that's a shockingly bad reason to reject desperately needed reform. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rock. We appreciate your testimony.
The next speaker is Eloise Young, commenting on 210669 and 210692.
Good morning. State your name for the record and please proceed.
Eloise Young.
Ms. Young? Okay.
Hello?
Yes. Yes.
I'm in Philadelphia. I'm sorry. My name is Eloise Young. I'm a facilitator for the HMC Square RCO in West Philly, and I'm also a member of the Citywide RCO Coalition. I'm also a lifelong Philadelphia resident. HMC Square supports Bill number 210669 and resolution number 210692 for the reasons outlined in the letters to City Council from the Citywide RCO Coalition, as well as the letter by the 46th Ward Democratic that was just read by Crystal Morris. We also support the statement of Val Ross, who spoke just before me. And we thank you for introducing the bill and for giving us a chance to express our support. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Susan Nam, commenting on 210669 and 2106.
Good morning. State your name for the record, and please proceed.
Good morning. Excuse me. My name is Susan Nam. I'm commenting as a Mount Airy resident and activist, artist from District 8. I'm here today to continue vocalizing my support for Bill number 210669 and Resolution 210692. There's a reminder that needs to be made about where the people have been and continue to stand in the city of Philadelphia. The movement of some, but not all policymakers, developers, and active political action groups are the absolute smallest percentage that make up for the overall population of the city versus the over 60% Black and Brown community that make up for the city. As a city ecosystem, the people entrust our policymakers to uphold the integrity of the principles, values, and culture that make our city unique. Campaigns may be funded by dollars, but our elected officials are powered by the people. Perhaps we've been somewhat absent from these kinds of conversations on this level due to the fact that all of our time is consumed by attending balloon releases, candlelight vigils, playing and cooking for block parties and community cookouts, attending to block captain duties, creating programming from scratch for our children, serving on advisory councils in our over 157 rec centers, tending to our community gardens, applying for grants, and so much more. This is Philadelphia. This public statement is a full circle of how our housing landscape is a direct reflection of our culture, where we live and what those homes look like and to what density they exist matter. The 90+% of the variances we have seen pass just in the past 4 years, with now the former chairman, is enough to show for. In 3 short minutes, we couldn't express our deep understanding for housing trends, the rising cost of construction costs in Philadelphia that is topping $300 per square gross feet, which is a direct result of the noticeable uptick in $500,000 price dollar homes in the midst of 100,000 average comps price neighborhoods. This updated legislation is necessary in order to protect the thresholds we've been compromising, basic principalities of sharing and quality of life for the name of pure profit. Thank you, Council President, for this time.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Crystal Morris, commenting on 210669 and 210692.
Mike, did Ms. Morris already testify? Or is this a different Ms. Morris?
I believe I heard her voice, Prez.
You're right, Mr. President.
Oh.
My error. Good eyes. The next speaker is Mark Zachary, commenting on 210669 and 210692.
Good morning.
Yes, hello. Hello, good morning. My name is Mark Zachary. I'm a resident of West Kensington, the 7th Councilmanic. I'm going to have a different opinion. This is obviously a transparent power grab to wrest control of the ZBA from the mayor's office. And it's being done because certain members of the council and some short-sighted individuals think that the ZBA approves buildings that are too tall and too dense, and that reduces affordability and increases overall prices in the neighborhoods. And you couldn't be farther from the truth. You couldn't be more wrong about that. And the fact is that members use downzoning bills as a weapon to force developers to come to the community and beg councilpersons to help slide their development through. And all this bill is going to do is exponentially increase the politicization of that process. And if areas were zoned properly in the first place, there would be less need for the ZBA. American Street, for example, Front Street, under the L, Kensington Ave, West Girard Ave, are a few to come to my mind. Now, North American had 2 huge developments approved by the ZBA, thankfully. But why? Because North American is entirely zoned for industrial commercial mixed use. It should have been zoned residential for years now. It's been vacant mostly for decades. The bottom line is that especially along major transit corridors like Girard, under the L, 2nd Street, American Street, buildings should be much taller by right and need to be more dense. This is the way that you will increase affordability, along with the mixed income housing overlay that has the affordability requirement built in. This is the way that you want to do it, and the way that everybody else is thinking it's going to get done, it's going to have the exact opposite effect. Now, council members have also used these overlays to disallow bonuses for affordable units. We should be looking forward, not backward, to exclusionary, suburban outlooks on zoning that went out of fashion in the 50s and 60s, but for some reason are coming back. These exclusionary policies have roots in classism and racism. Building tall and dense with an affordability requirement is the best way to manage affordability and ensure that we can continue to grow. These bills are going to take us backwards, and I hope that Philadelphia voters will see through this absolute farce. But I also know that it's probably going to get approved, and you're not going to get what you want out of it. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Susanna Berger, commenting on 210669 and 210692.
Good morning. State your name for the record and please proceed.
Good morning. My name is Susanna Berger, and I speak in opposition to Bill 210669 and Resolution 210692. The legislative process behind this bill and this resolution will have negative impacts for Philadelphia, and it should be slowed down. With the ZBA chair, any justification for this legislation is no longer applicable, and we need to wait and see how the ZBA operates under this new chair until any restructuring decisions are made. I fear that if these changes are implemented, developers are not going to want to go before the ZBA, which would make bad by right development more common. This is the complete opposite effect of the legislation's design. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Chris Hinckley, commenting on 210669 and 210692.
Good morning. State your name for the record and please proceed.
Hi, my name is Chris Hinckley, and I'm speaking in opposition to Bill 210669 and Resolution 210692. I think the proposal will have negative impacts for Philadelphia, and I think its passage should be delayed. With the new ZBA chair, things have changed, and the legislation needs to be slowed down. We need to see how the new ZBA chair operates with the ZBA until any restructuring decisions are made. And I'm afraid if the changes are implemented, developers won't go before ZBA, and we'll see an increase in bad by right development. So the resolution and bill would backfire, and I'm asking that you delay a vote on the final passage of this legislation today. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Just for the record, this must be voted on by the citizens of the city of Philadelphia. So this cannot be enacted unless there is a positive vote in the May primary election. So this is a ballot referendum. So there will be time from the installation of the new zoning board chair and the time that citizens actually get to vote. So people have an opportunity to review that work. But I just wanted to say that for the record. This does not automatically enact the reforms. It must be a vote by the citizens on a ballot referendum. Thank you. Mr. Decker, please proceed.
The next speaker is Christopher Maya Smith, commenting on 210669 and 210692.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Please proceed.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Christopher Mejia Smith. I'm a longtime member of my local RCO zoning committee, but these comments are my own. I speak in opposition to Bill 210669 and Resolution 210692. The legislative process behind this bill and resolution is being rushed and should be slowed down until we fully understand its impact. City Council controls what's in the zoning code. City Council controls how properties are zoned in the zoning maps. City Council controls zoning overlays in various neighborhoods. City Council controls policies like the expiring tax abatement and the new construction tax. And now City Council wants to control the makeup of the ZBA itself. It seems that this is a situation where we keep trying to tighten our grip, but yet more and more sand keeps trickling through our fingers. My worry is that if implemented, developers are not going to want to go before the ZBA. And if that happens, developers are going to take bad zoning maps and create bad by right development. That's what's happening on North 11th Street on the edge of Yorktown. Despite the Civic Design Review's request that they go back to the drawing board, this developer can legally build 320 studios, regardless of what is appropriate for the neighborhood. This legislation would not prevent that development from happening, and I fear that the legislation will actually make this type of bad development happen more regularly. As others have said, we have a new ZBA chair, and so the bulk of the justification for this legislation is now made moot. Let's wait and see how this new leadership of the ZBA conducts itself before we radically transform the ZBA structure. And there's no reason at this time that we should be rushing towards getting this ballot initiative in May. Let's wait and see, and let's talk about this for the November ballot. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it.
The final speaker we have this afternoon, Mr. President, is Tiffany Green, commenting on 210669, 210633A, and 210009.
Good morning. Stacey, please proceed.
Good morning. Good morning. Made me laugh. Okay, how everyone? I want to speak on, since we had a lot of talk on 669, let's skip that. 210633. More of our city properties are being transferred from public property into RDA, and there has not been any community process. We should have a community process right now. Most of the properties that have been transferred are being sold at $185,000 and $195,000, and that's not fair to us. I spoke to an industry professional, and he laughed when he thought about $15 an hour is going to be able to sustain a $185,000 home. That is not right. We need to find community developers who can build at a much lower price, and why not have the people buy a home at $125,000 and invest the rest in college scholarships and generation wealth? Why try to push that 185? I'm asking that we have a community meeting regarding these properties to find out if we're going to have low wage housing. Finally, I want to talk about this bonus bar bill. It is the most detrimental bill I've ever seen in my activism career. This bill is not right. You give the impression that you're giving affordable housing, but you're not. The thing is that you're allowing developers to get 7 feet and height and 11 mini bonus units more than we're getting for affordable, and then you make it a buy right. It is not right to sit here and tell the community that it's a buy right and there's nothing you can do about it. That is not true, and God knows the truth, and you know the truth. Why not? Why is it fair? And I'm saying the council president, why are you not making this require a community process for all of the city? Okay, we have the right to address trash, materials, types of units, rental prices, parking requirements, and everything at this point. This bill at this point is really a detrimental to us. We have 99 units coming through our community, and we have practically no say. If you say you care about your constituents and you respect us, then why not put a community process in here? Why allow a developer and a plan examiner at L&I to make all the decisions for a multifamily unit, like 90 units, 100 units? That's not fair to us. I just want people to know buy right means bypass the community. Buy right means bypass the community, and know this, and I'm not being smart. The turkey that you give will have more community process and community input than you do. This is not right. Stop the buy right process and put a community process in this bonus FAR bill.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
There are no other speakers on the public comment list, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our public comment session. We'll now consider today's resolution consent agenda. I would ask Mr. Decker to please read the titles of all the resolutions on the consent agenda. After each title is read, any member may object to the inclusion of the resolution on the resolution consent agenda. Upon such an objection, without debate, the resolution will be immediately removed from the resolution consent agenda and placed on today's regular final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, will you please now read the titles on the resolution consent agenda?
Resolution number 210960, entitled a resolution recognizing, honoring, and congratulating Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated on its 102nd Founders Day and the upcoming international convention being held in the city of Philadelphia, July 18 through July 24, 2022. And resolution number 210961, entitled a resolution recognizing, honoring, and congratulating Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated on its 108th Founders Day and the upcoming Eastern Region Conference being held in the city of Philadelphia, March 31 through April 3, 2022. And resolution number 210991, entitled a resolution recognizing and congratulating WHYY and the News and Information Community Exchange Collaborative on their steadfast commitment to diversify local news sources and empower local, BIPOC, and underserved communities through grassroots news. And resolution number 210992, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2929 North 13th Street, located in the 5th Councilmanic District. And resolution number 210993, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 5th Councilmanic District. And resolution number 210994, entitled a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to 1335 North 8th Street, 1401 North 8th Street, 1402 North 30th Street, 1410 North Myrtlewood Street, 1421 North Myrtlewood Street, 1424 North Myrtlewood Street, 1429 North Myrtlewood Street, 1437 North Myrtlewood Street, 1438 Franklin Street, 1440 Myrtlewood Street, 1451 North Myrtlewood Street, 1452 North Myrtlewood Street, 1457 North Myrtlewood Street, 1459 North Myrtlewood Street, 1460 North Hollywood Street, 1463 North Myrtlewood Street, 1500 North Hollywood Street, 1511 North Myrtlewood Street, 2955 North 8th Street, 3003 Redner Street, 3601 Germantown Avenue, and 729 Master Street in the 5th Councilmanic District. And resolution number 210995, entitled a resolution honoring Philadelphia VIP on the special occasion of its 40th anniversary. And resolution number 210996, entitled a resolution honoring the Philadelphia Lawyers for Social Equity on the occasion of its 10th anniversary. And resolution number 210997, entitled a resolution commending Patricia Wilson Aden on her appointment as President and CEO of the Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance. And resolution number 210998, entitled a resolution honoring the Local Initiative Support Corporation on the occasion of its 40th anniversary. And resolution number 210999, entitled a resolution commending the Black Promoters Collective on their official formation as a 100% Black-owned organization. And resolution number 211,000, entitled a resolution also naming the 1500 block of West Cobbett Street from 15th Street to 16th Street, Vivian Van Story Way, to honor and commemorate the life of Vivian Van Story and her lasting impact on her North Philadelphia communities. And resolution number 211001, entitled a resolution also naming the 2500 block of West Stewart Street from 25th Street to 26th Street, Warren McMichael Way, to honor and commemorate the life of Warren McMichael and his lasting impact on the Brewerytown Sharswood community. And resolution number 211002, entitled a resolution recognizing and honoring Terrence Foley for 15 years of committed service as the President and Chief Executive Officer of the City Avenue Special Services District in the 4th Councilmanic District. And resolution number 211003, entitled a resolution recognizing and honoring legendary sports journalist Donald Hunt on the occasion of his retirement after over 30 years of writing for the Philadelphia Tribune. And resolution number 211004, entitled a resolution recognizing and honoring Al Schmidt for his 10-year tenure as a Philadelphia City Commissioner and wishing him well as he begins a new chapter in his career as President and Chief Executive Officer of the Committee of 70. And resolution number 211008, entitled a resolution calling on the General Assembly to prohibit the use of deadly force to make a citizen's arrest. And resolution number 211009, entitled a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title of 1306, 1308, 1310, 1312, and 1329 South 21st Street, 1303 South 23rd Street, 1306 South 28th Street, 1213 South Bonsall Street, 1148 South Cleveland Street, 2632 Ellsworth Street, 1410 South Hicks Street, 2054 Garrett Street, 2612, 2741, and 2743 Latona Street, 2123 Montrose Street, 1701 and 1703 South Ringgold Street, and 1714 South Taylor Street in the 2nd Councilmanic District. And resolution number 211010, entitled a resolution recognizing the work and contributions of labor and grassroots community activist Ronald Whitehorn, whose leadership and mentorship has inspired generations of activists and leaders in the city of Philadelphia. And resolution number 211011, entitled a resolution designating Tuesday, December 21, 2021 as National Homeless Persons Memorial Day in the city of Philadelphia. And resolution number 211012, entitled a resolution honoring, congratulating, and thanking Frank DeChico on the occasion of his retirement from the Zoning Board of Adjustment and his many years of service to the citizens of Philadelphia. And resolution number 211013, entitled a resolution proclaiming January 13, 2022 as Korean American Day in Philadelphia to celebrate and commemorate the proud heritage of Korean Americans and their invaluable contributions to enhance the city's culture, economy, and the founding ideals of independence and democracy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Decker. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion to adopt each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded that each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. And the consent agenda has been adopted. We will now consider today's bill consent agenda. I would ask Mr. Decker, please read the titles of all the bills on the consent agenda. After each title is read, any member may object to the inclusion of the bill on the consent agenda. Upon such an objection, without debate, the bill will be immediately removed from the consent agenda and placed on a regular and second reading final passage calendar today. Mr. Decker, now please read the titles of the bills on the consent agenda.
Bill number 210689. Entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Old York Road, Broad Street, and 65th Avenue. And bill number 210899. Entitled an ordinance amending chapter 14-1000 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Historic Preservation, to establish a temporary demolition moratorium with respect to properties in the area bounded by Henry Avenue, Roxborough Avenue, Silverwood Street, and Fountain Street. And bill number 210926, entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Crispin Street, Willits Road, Academy Road, and Frankfurt Avenue. And bill number 210782, entitled an ordinance amending bill number 210320, approved June 28, 2021, entitled an ordinance to adopt a capital program for the 6 fiscal years 2022 through 2027 inclusive by adding, revising, and or removing certain projects account amounts and sources for the purpose of providing safe play zone security cameras. And bill number 210783, entitled an ordinance amending bill number 210321, approved June 28, 2021, entitled an ordinance to adopt the fiscal 2022 capital budget by adding, revising, and or removing certain projects, amounts, and sources for the purpose of providing safe play zone security cameras. And bill number 210864, entitled an ordinance amending subsection 192604, subparagraph 6 of the Philadelphia Code, credit for contributions to community development corporations, nonprofit organizations engaged in developing and implementing healthy food initiatives, and nonprofit intermediaries, to clarify the number of contribution agreements that may be entered into. And bill number 210629, entitled an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades in a portion of City Plan number 120 by striking from the city plan and vacating Nicholas Street and Turner Street, each from 20th Street to 21st Street, and reserving and placing on the city plan rights of way for various utility purposes within the beds of Nicholas and Turner Streets being stricken. And bill number 210867, entitled an ordinance amending chapter 122700 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Permit Parking Districts, by amending the boundaries for Permit Parking District 19. And bill number 210918, entitled an ordinance regulating the direction of movement of traffic on Camac Street between Wagner Avenue and Fisher Avenue. And bill number 210919, entitled an ordinance regulating the direction of movement of traffic on East Godfrey Avenue between Somerdale Avenue and Pratt Street. And bill number 210921, entitled an ordinance authorizing various encroachments at 3536 Calumet Street. And bill number 210929, entitled an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Day Street and Wiley Street, Thompson Street and Columbia Avenue, Oxford Street and Belgrade Street, East Montgomery Street and Thompson Street, Columbia Street and Belgrade Street, East Montgomery Street and Thompson Street, Columbia Avenue and Belgrade Street, Crease Street and Thompson Street, Belgrade Street and Oxford Street. And bill number 210930, entitled an ordinance amending section 5 of an ordinance, bill number 200423, approved November 10, 2020, entitled an ordinance authorizing Keystone Property Group to construct on and maintain a proposed exterior building ramp at 100 South Independence Mall West by extending the period for compliance with the terms and conditions stated therein. And Bill number 210931, entitled an ordinance amending section 5 of an ordinance, Bill number 200092, approved March 11, 2020, entitled an ordinance authorizing Independence Park Hotel to construct and maintain a proposed exterior building ramp at 235 Chestnut Street by extending the period for compliance with the terms and conditions stated therein. And Bill number 210932, entitled an ordinance authorizing various encroachments on North Broad Street in the vicinity of 1344 through 1348 Arch Street. And Bill number 210920, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 9800 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Landlord and Tenant, to provide for an eviction diversion program, to make associated changes related to the landlord and tenant relationship, and making certain technical changes. Mr. President, I got a late request from a member that may have an issue with 210920 on the consent agenda.
Thank you. This shall be removed without debate. Placed on the regular second reading. Is that that resolution?
That was a bill, Mr. President.
It's a bill? Okay.
210920. We'll place that on the regular second reading calendar.
Thank you. Is that it?
That's it, Mr. President.
Thank you. All right. These bills have been read on 2 different days. The question for each bill now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker call a roll, and upon being called, each council member shall vote aye on each of the bills, nay on each of the bills, or indicate those bills for which the member is voting aye and those bills for which the member is voting nay.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Dom.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Green.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Jones.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman O.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Councilwoman Sanchez. Go ahead, Mr. Decker.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye on all bills.
Council President Clark.
Aye on all bills, and a majority of all members having voted in the affirmative for each of the bills on the consent agenda are passed. We will now consider the bills and resolutions on the regular second reading and final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210692.
A resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to revise the composition of the Zoning Board of Adjustment by increasing the number of appointees, providing for confirmation by council of appointees, and specifying qualifications that appointees must possess, and providing for the submission of the amendment to the electors of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and probably second that the resolution be adopted. Because resolution number 210692 is an amendment to the Home Rule Charter, it requires 2/3 vote. Therefore, the question is, shall the resolution be adopted? Chief Clerk will call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez. Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16, the nays are 0. The resolution, 2/3 of all members of council voting in the affirmative, resolution number 210692 has been adopted. Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the title of bill number 210. You know what, Mr. Decker? Bill number 210633A. I'm sorry.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code by amending certain provisions of Chapter 14500 entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by creating the MIH Mixed Income Neighborhoods Overlay District, by revising certain provisions of Chapter 14702 entitled Floor Area Height and Dwelling Unit Density Bonuses, and by making related changes.
Thank you. This bill has been read on 2 different days. The question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez. Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. Ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of bill number 210917A.
An ordinance adding a new chapter 95700 entitled Leasing of Commercial Property to require commercial lessors to provide certain disclosures before entering lease agreements and to provide related protections to tenants.
This bill has been read on 2 different days. The question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye. And Mr. President, for the record, Councilmember Sanchez is having audio challenges right now, for the record, but she had to go out. She's trying to get back in, Mr. President.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye. I apologize.
Council President Clark.
Mr. Decker, I'm sorry. I apologize. I was having a good conversation with myself without understanding that both my screen and my microphone was off. Sorry about that. Please read the title of Bill number 210669.
We're not done with the disposition of 210917A, Mr. President. You were the last vote to be called.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was having a little issue over here. Oh, I thought I read that. Okay. The ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Majority of all members having voted in affirmative, the bill passes. And now, Mr. Decker, can you please read the title of Bill number 210669A?
An ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the City of Philadelphia of the proposal set forth in a resolution approved by council, proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to revise the composition of the Zoning Board of Adjustment by increasing the number of appointees, providing for confirmation by council of appointees and specifying qualifications and that appointees must possess, and authorizing the appropriate officers to publish notice and to make arrangements for the special election.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dobbs.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17, the nays are 0. Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez, there were a number, I think 3, maybe 4 bills and resolutions that we moved that were while you were interrupted. You want to cast your vote now on those bills and resolutions?
Thank you, Council President. Yes, I was disconnected for an expired password, but I want to be recorded as voting aye on all bills and resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Let the record reflect votes are now 17-0 as opposed to 16-0. Okay. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210923.
Mr. President, we got a last minute request to hold that bill from a member.
Okay.
Oh, what the?
Next minute, we're going to hold 210923.
923.
Okay. Hold that. And
So we have bill number 210920, Mr. President, that was removed from the consent agenda.
yeah, per the objection of the inclusion of 210920 on the consent agenda is now on the record of second reading, final passage. So, Mr. Decker, would you please
Excuse me, Mr. President. Councilmember O, you need to go on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. I'm looking for these big. Thanks.
Mr. Decker, read the title of 210920.
Yes, Mr. President. An ordinance amending Chapter 9800 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Landlord and Tenant to provide for an eviction diversion program, to make associated changes related to the landlord and tenant relationship, and make certain technical changes.
Thank you. This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now, shall the bill pass finally?
Mr. President, a member wants to make a statement
Councilwoman
prior
McGinn,
to the vote.
Councilwoman McGinn, did you want to make a statement prior?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. Did not plan to speak.
I was
Uh,
wondering. I knew that
just
thing.
a little bit. I wasn't expecting to speak today. But I especially want to thank the co-sponsors of this bill, Councilmember Thomas Gautier Brooks, members of the Housing Committee, and certainly all members of City Council who in last month signed on to a letter to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court urging an extension of Philadelphia's historic eviction diversion program. Philadelphia's eviction diversion program was created in an emergency and crisis. It happened before we had hundreds of millions of dollars in rent assists coming through. It happened before we knew how long the COVID crisis would last. But I think what this council body ultimately understood was that COVID exposed existing breaks and crises within a system. It didn't just create them. And one of the crises that we have in Philadelphia, the poorest large city in the country, is that poverty is a lived experience. And one of the lived experiences comes through evictions. Philadelphia was the 4th highest evicting city in the nation pre-pandemic. Almost 22,000 evictions were processed and filed annually every single year. Since the pandemic, we have, this council body has been dedicated to putting in place new protections. I want to thank the council president for helping establish a tenant legal defense fund, for this council body for funding and supporting the Philadelphia Eviction Prevention Project, for which, this body has supported the funding of through 2024. I want to thank this body for approving Right to Counsel, which guarantees legal representation in landlord-tenant court for low-income tenants so that they are not denied a landlord when facing complicated issues that could result in the loss of their home. And of course, I want to thank this council body and especially my colleagues on council who helped pass through the Emergency Housing Protections Act. At the time, it included an eviction moratorium that was temporary, the eviction diversion program, mandatory payment plans, and then curtailing of late payment fees. Together, combined, for 2 years in a row, Philadelphia, the poorest large city in America, has reduced the number of evictions by 75%. From 22,000 evictions in 2019, we did 4,500, less than 4,500 in 2020. We'll be around 6,000 or a little bit more than that in 2021. There are alternatives to what has often been one of the worst days of some people's lives, which is having everything that you own thrown out with not even advance notification. There can be solutions that result in helping us distribute rent assistance. Almost $230 million in rent assistance has gone to almost nearly 40,000 Philadelphia households to keep them housing stable and to ensure that landlords are paid in the process. And it's made sure that we have due process in our courts. Prior to the pandemic, there was an almost 90-day wait in municipal court when filing for an eviction. That wait is now 30 days. There's due process. There are options for exiting situations. And there is this eviction diversion program, which has had a 93% success rate for all participants, which has included several thousand individuals. My hope is that this program will continue to evolve and grow, and that our council body and our city will continue to evolve and grow in our responses to a complicated situation, but one that has been devastating to thousands of Philadelphians. And again, I want to thank this council body for being dedicated. Again, I want to thank every single person on this city council who signed off on that letter to the Supreme Court. As you heard from one of the testifiers today from the Senior Law Center, the Supreme Court's emergency extension expires at the end of this month. And so this bill allows for local authorization. The program will continue to evolve. We will have our landlord and our renter advocates at the table as we look forward to a new era that takes us out of an emergency and into a permanent approach towards seeing evictions as a course of last resort and not the first and default option that landlords and tenants have to see through. I want to thank everybody for that, and I look forward to the vote. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Councilwoman Bass. Okay.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. Excuse me. Aye. The ayes are 16 and nays are 0. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, you have any additional resolution?
A resolution calling on Mayor James F. Kenney and his administration to work collaboratively with City Council in the creation of a local job placement task force, introduced by Councilwoman Parker on behalf of Council President Clark.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and probably second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
A resolution calling on Pennsylvania General Assembly to reject House Bills 412, 1332, 1642, and any other legislative initiatives that decrease funding for public schools and further inequities in our educational systems, introduced by Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and probably second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed,
Oh, they canceled the lunch.
Squilla, I'm going to lunch, but go on mute.
Aye.
those opposed, the ayes have it. And that resolution is adopted.
A resolution urging the Biden administration and the United States Department of Justice to finalize a proposed rule that would close a regulatory loophole and require ghost gun kit makers to include serial numbers in firearm kits and require federally licensed firearms dealers to conduct background checks prior to the sale of these firearm kits, introduced by Councilman Johnson on behalf of Council President Clark.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Council President, I enthusiastically adopt this
Second.
move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and probably second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing this special committee on gun violence prevention to conduct hearings to examine our national youth mental health crisis and its role in the ongoing epidemic of gun violence, introduced by Councilman Johnson.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Council President, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and probably second. All those favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring the Inner City Warriors youth football team for winning the National United Youth Football League 2021 championship in Plant City, Florida, introduced by Councilman Johnson.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Johnson.
No, Council Prez, you led the way a couple years ago with a youth football team, national title in Florida. So the second district now has one, and so I enthusiastically move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It is moving enthusiastically adopted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and the championship has moved south, and the resolution is approved.
And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia City Council Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless to conduct public hearings to explore the crisis of expiring affordable housing subsidies, the impact of these expirations on the availability of affordable housing in the city of Philadelphia, and the use of the scattered site model to increase the number of available affordable units, introduced by Councilwoman Gautier.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gauthier.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass. I think she was
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. I was having some challenges with technology, so I wanted to be registered as aye on eviction diversion.
All right, that's number two.
I think that's the only vote that I may have missed. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Let the record reflect that Councilwoman Bass is voting aye on 210920. That vote is now 17-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please proceed.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Okay, with that, we will move towards our speeches. And for members regarding those speeches, I will note for the record at this time, we'll use the chat feature available on Microsoft's Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for this particular purpose. With that said, speeches on behalf of the minority, Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. Yesterday, the Council's Committee on Education held a very substantive and lengthy hearing on a relevant, important, and sometimes complicated topic, and that has to do with criteria-based schools and the admission process. I think in summary, at least from what I understand, and I invite the public to look at the video of the hearing. I will warn you, it's about 4.5 hours. However, you can skip around and you will see a lot of very impressive, learned people, as well as excellent representatives providing expert testimony and important testimony. But what I believe is revealed is that the Philadelphia Board of Education has already implemented, they're not planning to implement this, they have already implemented a new admissions process for these criteria-based schools, and some of us know them as magnet schools. It is fundamentally a system where you have to get past the first phase. The first phase is that you have to have A's and B's, but A's and B's are not distinguished. So someone with all A's and someone with all B's are equal. From there, you have to take a essay, a 90-minute essay that is graded by a computer program that cannot evaluate content, cannot distinguish humor, insight, determination, aspiration. It basically will flag for a teacher sentence structure, grammar, and spelling. Once a student gets past this first phase, they are then in a lottery system. The lottery system, however, the school district has selected six, to my knowledge, 6 zip codes where a weight is given to any applicant within that zip code. The zip codes, as far as I know, you know, I'm not sure the point of the selection, but you know, that's, I think, in controversy. Depending on how you look at it, I believe the official count of zip codes in Philadelphia is 87. But some of those are just buildings, government buildings, and so perhaps the zip codes as we know it, neighborhoods, is 47. And entire areas of Philadelphia are absent from this weighted zip code. Some of the poorest, most crime-ridden neighborhoods are not included. There is no standardized test, and there is no, from what I can tell, evaluation based on letters of recommendation. The computer program specifically says it is not to be used for grading, and certainly not for high stakes evaluation. Also, this new process was announced the day before the process of admissions, which was very disturbing and shocking to a lot of people, especially those who wanted to get in. And now there is also the issue of middle schools where parents and students understood that because these were selective schools, and many of them awarded for their diversity and inclusion, that there would be a preference for the children who attended schools like Carver and SLA Beaver and Masterman and other schools like that. So there's that confusion. I do think that, as many of my colleagues have stated, that whatever the good intentions, that this process was not well thought out, was not available to the public, was not inclusive. And part of the problems also raise legal issues. For example, the process of selection is extremely detrimental to children with intellectual and emotional disabilities. It is extremely detrimental to children who have certain physical disabilities. It is detrimental to children who are immigrants, who grow up in a household that English is not the language spoken, to children from poor neighborhoods that have underperforming schools where English is not, when it comes to grammar, spelling, and sentence structure, something that is really emphasized. And I think it also disadvantages other students, but particularly, I think, those who are trying, those who are smart, those who are gifted, but are poor, because they cannot go to a tuition-based school. And what we're really talking about, I believe, is the Constitution. The Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Pennsylvania guarantee as a right, not a privilege, a quality education, not separate and unequal and unfair education, a quality education that is as good as anyone else's education based on its public stature. It doesn't matter if you're a citizen, a non-citizen, whatever your physical or intellectual situation, your race or gender, your you know, all of those things, you are guaranteed a right to a quality education. Philadelphia is ranked 597th out of 707 school districts in the state. Children can simply go to school in a neighborhood that they live in, which is wealthy. They have a excellent school. They don't need to compete for it. They don't need to take tests. They don't need to write essays. They just go to their neighborhood school. Other kids cannot go there because they don't live there. They don't have the money to live there. They can't afford to live there. And so one of the things that I really urge the school district to consider is the message that it is sending. And I think the message that it's sending is where you live matters. Where you live matters because you do not have a good school. You do not have an equal school. And now, if you try as hard as you might to get out of that situation, to go to a magnet school, even that now seems blocked because you are now subject to a lottery and you don't have the money. What are the choices for these children and their families? One is to move out of the city, if you can. And if you can, what do you do? I am very concerned, and I believe many people are. We've had excellent witnesses, like the chair of our Pennsylvania Legislative Black Caucus, our former colleague, State Representative Donna Bullock, Archbishop Mary Floyd Palmer, civic activist and radio show host Solomon Jones, as well as many academic experts and other persons. And the quandary is what happens now. I am circulating a letter. I'm just letting people know. And I appreciate the council members that are aware of it, that are signing on. And for those who don't know, I will circulate it. Just laying out what happened, what was made evidence, and urging the school district to take a pause in terms of working with city council to see if there is a way to address this situation. The damage has been done. The process is in play. But if we don't do anything, are we just allowing this to continue? I really believe that at heart is the failure to deliver constitutionally guaranteed right to a good quality, free public education right where you live. And this is a challenging situation. I will circulate that letter, and I hope that good will come of this. And I appreciate everyone who participated and everyone's concern. Thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Brooks. Difficulty. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Not static in the back.
Right. Can you hear me?
That's better.
I don't know. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Go off camera. All right. I'm working from the phone today. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Council President. I want to take a moment to talk about the resolution that I introduced today, which is the third in a series that my office has been doing to recognize the contributions and work of community activists and leaders in the city of Philadelphia. Today's resolution, which so many of my colleagues were kind enough to support, recognizes my friend Ron Whitehorn. Ron's life thus far is a laundry list of hard-fought campaigns for justice and equity. Ron was an early supporter of the desegregation efforts, civil rights, and Black liberation movements. He was a leading voice in the anti-war activism, even when penalties for engaging in such work were high risk and resulted in being put behind bars. He mobilized rank and file workers to fight for better pay and worker conditions and build grassroots power for housing justice and voting rights. But perhaps one of Ron's most prominent accomplishments is his work as a Philadelphia public school teacher for over 2 decades and his deep commitment to education. This commitment includes not only winning accolades for his teaching, helping found a youth servant organization and serving as the leadership with the PFT. Ron also fought to improve the accuracy and depth of the curriculum that was taught in schools and expose injustices in the district through community power journalism. His work didn't stop in the classroom. And if you know Ron, you know that he is committed to education in a broader sense, to the practice of teaching and learning from other people, hearing each other out and building communities of care and understanding. This is at the heart of what makes him such a great activist and leader. His work has always been about giving other people the tools to realize justice for themselves, to sharing resources and knowledge and power building from the ground up. And if I were to list each of the essential movement campaigns that he has been a key part of, we would be here all day. Many of you know him from his work, his integrity, and his good heart. I know him as a person who paved the way for my third-party election to city council, as a person who envisioned an independent-minded elected official for years before I even knew what was possible, and as a person who believed in and supported me from the very start. Ron draws his strength from the belief that change happens when ordinary people come together and demand it. And it's people like Ron who inspire me to continue my work and to use my position to empower others and build a better Philadelphia for generations to come. And I want to thank you, Ron, and I want to thank his wife, Patty, who is also a powerhouse organizer and labor leader, for everything they do for this city. And I want to thank my council colleagues and council president. Have a great day.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Speeches on behalf of the majority. Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. A couple of things that I think are really important that I want to highlight as we close out our last council session of the year. I first want to just take a moment to say congratulations to the workers at Unite Here. They were able to put themselves in a position where they were going through some tough negotiations, and those workers who are mostly city residents that we all represent have been put in a position where they have some level of stability. So I just want to say congratulations to them. I also want to offer my condolences to the staff and all of the folks over at Alany High School. This COVID situation, this COVID crisis is one that we talk about often from an economic perspective, from a mental health perspective, the impact it has on crime. But at the end of the day, the virus itself is still killing people, and we're seeing a number of different variants. This week, we lost our first student as it relates to COVID death here in the city of Philadelphia, and that was a young lady who attended Alany High School. There will be a memorial for the student, and I don't want to put their business out there, but there will be a memorial for the student. And I know I've talked to a number of my colleagues in council as we as a collective offer our condolences, not just to the family of the student, but to the student's friends, as well as the staff and the other community members at Alany who are hurt by this tragedy. With that being said, we as a council body must ensure that we continue to do the due diligence that we've stepped up to do to make sure that we're educating and encouraging people to get vaccinated. I'm in a number of different conversations where this idea of being vaccinated is still something that folks feel like is not necessary. Whether you're talking about sports and issues there, or whether you're talking about the new guidelines around restaurants, it is a sad situation when someone has to die from this unfortunate virus while we have vaccinations available. And, you know, I'm not judging anybody based on how you feel about a vaccine or what you think should be done. But at the end of the day, this is a serious matter. It's a global pandemic. It's impacting people all across the world, not just in Philadelphia. So before folks come with their conspiracy theories, we got to recognize that this is global. This is not just a Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, United States thing. People are taking vaccines in countries all across the world because folks recognize that vaccines are what we are dealing with as it relates to current science and the impact that they have on our everyday life. We take vaccines outside of just COVID. We take them for other issues and other things, for our children to attend schools. And I think about my father, who is 72 years old. He takes a number of medicines and vaccines to assure that his health stays up to par. So I did want to get long-winded about that part. because my heart was broken when I found out, and I just want to continue to push people to get vaccinated. The last thing for me on my end is just want to communicate my disappointment and some of the things that we're hearing as it relates to student loan debt. One of our colleagues, Councilmember Brooks, introduced a resolution a little while back looking at this issue around student loan debt. And we know that the federal government is looking to have student loan payments resume sometime early next year. That is something that is extremely unfortunate. When you look at the poverty in the city of Philadelphia and other urban areas all across the country, one of the things that people really were banking on is this idea of some type of initiative to address the student loan debt that an entire generation of people are dealing with. I myself am a victim, victim of student loan debt. I know a lot of my colleagues in council also have issues with student loan debt. And at the end of the day, we have some important elections and initiatives taking place next year. And not to be partisan at all, because that's not what this is about. We have a catastrophe in this country as it relates to the cost of a quality education. And when you look at the amount of debt that an entire generation is faced with as it relates to student loans, it is crippling households. It will cripple households next year. The inflation that we're seeing, not just in Philadelphia, but all across the country, is significant. The stimulus dollars that people got seems like it was years ago. So at the end of the day, I am really concerned about the student loan debt issue that we have as a nation, specifically the impact it has on us as folks who represent the people of Philadelphia. And I am challenging myself first and my colleagues to figure out what can we do to advocate to the federal government to put together some type of program or relief or initiative to be able to deal with the student loan crisis that we're facing. Thank you, Council President. Thank you, colleagues. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you. And our hearts are heavy for that young person that was lost due to COVID. This is real in every sense of the word. Unfortunately, we may have a very difficult winter if people don't figure out a way to get vaccinated. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I echo those comments that you made, and thank you, Councilmember Thomas, for bringing this to our attention. And thank you, Council President, for your leadership in getting us as members of council to do PSAs to get people to get their booster shots. It's so important that we do that. As this is our last council session, I want to wish all of my colleagues, the staff, city employees, and all of Philadelphia a happy holiday season. It's important for us to get those booster shots and even original shots so that we can get together during the holiday season. I know this has been a very challenging time period, and fortunately, many of us will be able to get together over the holidays. And as we prepare for the holiday season, we also prepare for a new year. Many of us make resolutions to possibly eat less, work out more, lose a little weight. I know on a personal level, I'm going to try to not wait to the last minute to do some of my honeydew tasks that I need to do in the household. But even though we can make these personal resolutions to do better, I think we as a city can also resolve to do better. And when I talk about resolutions, I hope we as a city can resolve to do a better job to address the gun violence in our city. We have to acknowledge there's a gun violence crisis in order to address gun violence. And so I want to thank our District Attorney, Larry Krasner, for making that apology and acknowledging the gun crisis issue in our city. And it's an issue that all of us know has really impacted our city in a lot of different ways. And this issue is not an either or situation. And if you listen to the recent comments by San Francisco Mayor London Breed, it's not one or the other. It's not safety or justice. It's safety and justice. It's not reform or accountability. It's reform and accountability. And we can applaud and also be critical at the same time. Just like I can applaud as a former assistant district attorney, the DA's office and Larry Krasner and the great work they're doing regarding the conviction integrity unit and also making great efforts regarding bail reform. I can also be critical of the decrease in the gun case convictions in our city. I can also applaud the police department, who's on a record number of gun arrests in our city, but our clearance rates for homicides are very, very low. So we can applaud and also be critical. And we know we have a gun crisis in this city, and this body has stated to the mayor and Mayor Kenny, we need a state of emergency in our city. We also, as members of city council, the mayor, the district attorney, and police commissioner, all need to work together collaboratively to address this issue. Now, on Tuesday, there was an announcement that we had a decrease in shootings in the 18th and 19th Police District in West Philadelphia, and that's a step in the right direction. The collaboration between Attorney General Shapiro and Commissioner Outlaw is a type of collaboration we need going forward. And we need this collaboration at the federal, state, and local level if we're going to address gun violence in the city of Philadelphia. So as we prepare for the holiday season, I wish everyone a happy and safe holidays. And as we prepare for 2022, let's, as a city, let's resolve to have a safer city in next year for all of Philadelphians. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Well spoken on those very, very pertinent issues. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Battier.
I think Councilmember Gilmore Richardson was before me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sending what they send me.
Oh, okay. I'm happy to go if she doesn't want to go now.
Go ahead.
Your first colleague.
Okay. Thank you, Council President, and good afternoon, everyone. As we approach the end of our last council meeting of 2021, it feels like an appropriate moment to look back on what we've accomplished and what's to come. For one thing, it's hard to believe that the freshmen four are coming up on 2 full years in council. I'm grateful for the partnership of my freshman colleagues whose support and friendship has been invaluable during this extremely unique time to enter elected office. The opportunity to use policy to build equitable communities and affordable neighborhoods was what inspired me to run in the first place. And I'm proud of the progress we've made on that front this session. Today, this body approved the Mixed Income Neighborhoods Overlay Bill, which Councilmember Quinones Sanchez and I have been collaborating on for practically my entire time in office. This is Philadelphia's first ever mandatory inclusionary zoning legislation. It will preserve affordability in some of Philadelphia's most rapidly gentrifying neighborhoods by requiring that affordable housing be part of new large development projects in certain parts of the 3rd and 7th districts. This is critically important because of the ever increasing risk of displacement that our low-income Black and Brown communities are facing. To give you a sense of the kind of impact this would have in West and Southwest Philly, if we look at data on residential development just in the 3rd district alone, if we look at all the permits for apartment buildings with 10 or more units, over the last 3 years, that comes out to 3,100 new units that have been approved. Virtually none of these units were affordable. So if we do the math, if our bill had been in place just 3 years ago, we'd have 620 additional affordable homes in our district built by the private sector. We all want to see Philadelphia grow, but not if it's at the expense of low-income and working-class residents who are seeing their options for safe and stable housing shrink with each passing year. I think I speak for both Councilmember Sanchez and myself when I say that keeping our neighborhoods affordable for the individuals and families who have lived there for generations is our #1 priority. Thank you, Councilmember, for your partnership and for always being such a strong champion for affordable housing and sustainable communities. It's so exciting to see this finally cross the finish line, and I want to thank all of my colleagues for your support. We need to use every tool at our disposal to generate new affordable housing. And with that in mind, today I introduced a new bill to encourage the use of city-owned vacant land for affordable housing, as well as community gardens. With each piece of city-owned land lost to for-profit development, the city loses an opportunity to shore up affordability and community-serving uses that will have long-term benefits. If passed, this bill would give grassroots community organizations a leg up in the competition to acquire this land. I'm incredibly grateful to the Philadelphia Coalition for Affordable Communities for their close collaboration on this effort and for their tireless advocacy on behalf of Philadelphia residents. In addition to generating new units of affordable housing, we need to focus on preserving the ones that already exist. That's why this session, I introduced a bill to protect expiring affordable housing in the 3rd District, including the University City Townhomes, an affordable housing development at 40th and Market that is in danger of being sold and razed and replaced by a market rate commercial development. But the reality is that the University City Townhomes are irreplaceable. Dozens of 3-bedroom apartments with rents that are 90% cheaper than what you can get on the open market in the middle of some of the hottest real estate in the city. This is something that can't be replicated in today's real estate climate. Furthermore, this site was formerly part of the Black Bottom, the Black working class neighborhood that was destroyed to make way for the University City Science Center back in the late 60s and early 70s. This makes the prospect of its loss even more of an injustice. Unfortunately, the affordable housing emergency we're seeing with the townhomes isn't limited to this site. Hundreds of developments across Philadelphia, including dozens in my district, have affordability contracts with HUD that could potentially expire within the next 5 years. Thousands more units in low-income housing tax credit properties could also go offline. Because property values have increased so much during the course of these contracts, for-profit operators are more and more choosing not to continue offering affordable housing so that they can maximize their profits. And low-income families are the ones who suffer the consequences of that. That's why today I introduce a resolution calling for hearings to explore the issue of expiring affordability contracts and how those expirations will impact the availability of affordable housing in our city. We look forward to examining the roles and responsibilities of every level of government to stave off this impending crisis. And Council President, I would be remiss if I did not take the time to recognize some of the other vital work this body has done on housing this session. In particular, MPI, the $400 million initiative that will strengthen our neighborhoods and combat critical issues like housing affordability. This is a historic investment, and these funds are critically needed by our constituents. So thank you, Council President, for your leadership and your vision on this. I also want to take a moment to recognize my colleague, Councilmember Helen Gim, for her groundbreaking work on Philadelphia's eviction diversion program, which has become a national model to keep renters safely housed. This program has been a lifeline for many during an unprecedented global pandemic, and I'm thrilled that this body today extended the program for the year to come. Thank you, Councilmember Gim, for your leadership, your partnership, and your friendship. Clearly, we have a lot to be grateful and hopeful for, but at the same time, I can't help but feel devastated by how gun violence continues to tear our communities apart. As we all know, this has been a record-breaking year of violence. With 2 weeks still left to go in 2021, we've already lost dozens more Philadelphians to gun violence than in 2020, which also saw record levels of gun violence. This loss is incalculable, but I'm grateful to partner with all of you on steps that bring us closer to restoring peace and safety in our communities. This body made an extraordinary investment in anti-violence efforts in the FY22 budget. The city's Violence Prevention and Opportunity Monitoring Group has prioritized the distribution of over $13 million in grants to grassroots organizations who are on the ground working with residents to stem the violence in a variety of ways. I'm so thrilled that so many organizations will benefit from this support and that our neighborhoods will too. And I'm proud that this is a direct result of the work and advocacy of City Council. At the same time, I must point out that the Kenney administration still has not implemented a comprehensive emergency response to this crisis. And I think that many of my colleagues recognize this too. My friend and colleague in the 2nd District, Councilmember Johnson, continues to exemplify this body's commitment to combating the city's gun violence crisis. He has continued to lead the Special Committee on Gun Violence, holding multiple hearings this session, and continues to push all of our government partners to do more to combat this epidemic. Councilmember, I admire your work and deeply value our partnership. I also want to take a moment to highlight my recent work with Controller Rebecca Reinhardt. There are 14 zip codes in our city where the vast majority of gun violence is concentrated. This session, I partnered with the controller to advocate for communities in these zip codes to be flooded with resources and supports, from enhanced rec center offerings to behavioral health services to high quality jobs for people most likely to get caught in the cycle of violence and expanded crisis intervention efforts. And the reason why we're pushing so hard on this is because it's a matter of racial justice. Decades of racist public policy, of disinvestment in our Black neighborhoods have left people suffering. In this moment, when our city and country are laser focused on ending racial oppression, this should be the moment that we break this cycle of violence. We can't have equity in our communities when people are scared for their lives and the lives of their families because of gun violence in their neighborhoods. And so we need to intentionally reinvest in these neighborhoods to counteract the cumulative systemic harm they've experienced and to continue and that they continue to experience right now. But I also want to be clear that gun violence is a net loss for every single person in every single corner of our city. It puts immense strain on our medical institutions. It generates staggering costs to our criminal justice entities, which get handed down to taxpayers. And it disincentivizes economic growth, threatening to stifle Philadelphia's long-term prosperity. All of this is why I won't stop pushing on this issue until we see the kind of response that Philadelphians expect and deserve. But even though we still have a long road ahead of us, I'm very proud of the work that my colleagues and I are doing to build a city that prioritizes the well-being of all Philadelphians. We are on the path towards equity and fairness across the city. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I just wanted to offer my sincere condolences to the family on the loss of the young person at Olney High to COVID-19. It's very, very sad and difficult time, and their family will be in my prayers. Mr. President, as we conclude year 2 of this term, I wanted to pause and thank you and all of my colleagues in City Council for the work we continue to do together to really take substantial steps to move Philadelphia forward. I truly am honored to serve with each and every one of you, and I look forward to the hard but necessary work we will do together ahead in the new year. And to all the staffers and all the team members in council, from one former staffer to another, thank you all for the work that you continue to do to make us look good, because it's not us, it's really the work that you do. So thank you, each and every one of you behind the scenes, from the tech team to your team, Council President, all of our council staff members, Sergeant at Arms, everyone. We thank you for your work. Mr. President, I also wanted to thank my sorors of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated and my brothers of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated for providing testimony during our public comment session today in advance of several high-profile meetings that will take place here in the city of Philadelphia. First, the members of Zeta will be here for our International Executive Board meeting, January 6th through the 8th. We have a hybrid model, some in person and some will be online virtually. And our brothers will be here March 30th through April 3rd for their regional conference. And finally, Mr. President, the members of Zeta will be here for our international convention. We call it our Boule. In July. So we are really looking forward to welcoming the Blue and White family to the city of brotherly love and sisterly effectiveness, Councilmember Green, next year. We are really going to paint this city blue and white all year long. Next, Mr. President, I wanted to thank my colleague, Councilmember Jones, for the resolution recognizing and congratulating Mr. Donald Hunt on his retirement from the Philadelphia Tribune. He is indeed a Philadelphia sports media legend. And Mr. Hunt once said, "I hope that people remember that I worked extremely hard to get the best story that I could, and that I always gave them something that they didn't know about from before." And with over 40 years in the industry, his determination and diligent work will be reflected in the legacy he leaves behind. Mr. Hunt has broken limits and inspired generations of journalists with his passion for his field, from the NFL to the NBA and even college sports. He became the first African-American sports writer to enter the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. So, Mr. Donald Hunt, I hope you're listening. Thank you for leading such a remarkable career and for all you have done for both the city of Philadelphia and the field of sports writing. Your reputation and career precede you, and we are so grateful for your service. So enjoy every moment of your well-deserved retirement. And thank you so much for the stories on Emlyn Tunnell when we were trying to keep his name alive in the media. And finally, Mr. President, I wanted to give kudos to another sister in service, the mayor of San Francisco, Mayor London Breed, who boldly declared that she is leading the way to improve public safety in the city of San Francisco. She stated, "We are past the point where what we see is even remotely acceptable." She stated all of our residents, our workers, and everyone who visits our city should feel safe, no matter what part of town they are in. She went on to state, "We are a city that prides ourselves on second chances and rehabilitation, but we are not a city where anything goes. Our compassion should not be mistaken for weakness and indifference." And lastly, Mr. President, she stated at the end of the day, "The safety of the people of San Francisco is the most important thing to me." Well, Mr. President, the safety and well-being of the residents of the city of Philadelphia is the most important thing to me. And we have a lot of work to do to address the inequities and disinvestment that has happened over the years, and we are doing that work. And I thank you, colleagues, for supporting the work to update our minor curfew law and establish curfew centers that will open in 4 days. 4 days. And I thank you all for making an unprecedented investment in gun violence prevention and intervention in our city. But we must be clear that lawlessness in our city cannot be tolerated. And we must do all we can to ensure our city, our neighbors, and our friends, our visitors, and others feel safe in our city. So I look forward to being a part of the solutions that lead to a safer Philadelphia. Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you, colleagues. Happy holidays to you and your families.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Lady. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, when I'm usually having a difficult time, I don't care if it's work and juggling a heavy load or personally or family. I have a cousin whose name is Amin, and he calls me and he says, "Sherelle, God gives the hardest jobs to his strongest soldiers. God gives the hardest jobs to his strongest soldiers." It's with that spirit in mind, Mr. President, that I wanted to take this opportunity to say to you and to all of our colleagues that it is more than an honor and a privilege to serve our great city with each of you. Mr. President, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Some people would like to think that this is a dictatorship, but they don't see the behind the scenes work that you do when, you're pulling myself and Whip Jones and Deputy Whip Squilla and all of our members together. Everybody has a body of work that they work on to get done, to contribute to this legislative body. And I want each and every one of you to know that I am proud of our work as a body. I will not single out any specific piece of legislation and or administration administrative change that has been made as a result of our advocacy. But I want each of us to just take a moment during this time to recognize the work that we have done together as a team. I think that's extremely important, and it's not something that we get an opportunity to do because we find ourselves often in robotic mode, where we are constantly responding to crises and trying to address issues. But I wanted to make sure that we put that on the radar. In addition to that, Mr. President, I do have to note for the record that earlier in this session, I held a hearing on the issue of violence in our city and its connection to the economic viability of our neighborhood commercial quarters. And it was a citywide representation, those who testified from community development corporations, from bids, from RCOs, who were very direct and intentional, Mr. President, about acknowledging the fact that we need community policing, that residents throughout the city of Philadelphia have said there is no better way for us to try to mend and rebuild relationships with law enforcement without community policing. What does that mean? Beat officers in our neighborhoods, Mr. President, walking the beat. Those officers who were on bike patrol, who were going in and out of small businesses, stopping at recreation centers, stopping at schools just to check in to say, hey, is everything okay? Anything needs to be brought to my attention, please let me know. We have to make that a priority. I appreciate Council members Green along with Gilmore Richardson acknowledging the very bold step taken by San Francisco Mayor London Breed and her efforts. Because sometimes when you don't put up your finger to see which way the wind blows, but you have to make a tough decision, there's a lot of noise around it. But usually that noise is not connected to the people who are closest to the pain. And in our instance, in our great city of Philadelphia, I hope we will continue to keep our ears to the ground and listen to the people and what they are saying to us in neighborhoods across the city about our need to have a more safer, cleaner, and an economically viable city for all that provides opportunity for all. In addition to that, I want to say this, Mr. Brooks, thank you so very much for acknowledging Ron, who is a resident of the 9th Councilmanic District, who I've had the opportunity to work with on a number of occasions, both he and his wife, Patty. He's more than well deserving of this honor, and I want to thank you, Councilmember Brooks. I want to thank you, Councilmember Thomas, for bringing to my attention the tragedy that occurred with the student relative to COVID at Alney High School, and do want to send my condolences not only to the student's family, but to the entire Alney High School family. Now, finally, Mr. President, this is something fun. And Council Member Green, I got a little angry when you talked about resolutions about losing weight, because this is food time. And I am hoping that everybody will find a way to enjoy some time with their family and friends, and don't take lightly the importance of fellowship in any way that we possibly can. And to Council Member Gim, I wanted to say this to you, Council Member. I know you said you weren't prepared to speak today, but I want you to know you were well prepared. Okay, you didn't intend on it, but you were prepared today, and I thank you for the work you have done on the legislation that you acknowledge. Again, colleagues, special thank you to each of you. Remember, God gives the hardest jobs to his strongest soldiers. I'm proud to work with each and every one of you, your strong soldiers, to all of our staff, to the administration. We can't get anything without you, done without you. We can legislate all we want, but when it comes to implementation, we have to work with the men and women who keep this city going, and to our tech team. Thank you so very much for making sure that dinosaur folks like Sherelle Parker, who can't seem to get a grip and to wrap her hands around this technology, that I find a way to make it on here every week and through hearings just to get it done. Thank you all. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, colleagues. Just real quick, because I've heard some really powerful points today about the work we do, about the reason we do it. And so I don't need to echo any of that, but just say amen. But I do want to have 3 wishes for 2022. One of them is to look at that 100-shooter review with a goal towards no more kids going to jail for murder and no more kids dying because of it. That's number 1. Number 2, that we do our redistricting. And finally, from the federal level to the state level to the local level, know the areas that we will serve going forward. That's number 2. And then number 3 is voter education, voter registration. And I link the two because a famous state rep, my mentor, said to me, David P. Richardson, that to give a voter registration card without doing voter education is like giving the keys to a car without driving lessons. And I totally agree. So those are my 3 wishes, Mr. President, and I hope my colleagues will help me to get all 3 of them through. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Well, Councilman, I can tell you on one of those wishes with respects to redistricting, that's going to happen because as one of the probably only 2 members here in this current council remember what it was like not to get paid when we didn't conclude our redistricting, right? That was not fun. So we will get that done at the appropriate time. Kyle, I think that concludes our speeches. Just real brief, I'm not supposed to speak on the podium, virtual as it may be. The bottom line, I just want to first of all say how much I appreciate, all of you. As the council president, I get to talk to all of you on a very confidential and personal level, and how much I appreciate those relationships, right? Some of you all make me feel like the old uncle, and some of you all make me feel like the child when I get scolded by some of you, right? But at the end of the day, it's a special kind of relationship that most people don't see. And I know, how much you all care about the city on a very personal level. And I just want to say how much I really enjoy having this relationship with you all. The last 2 years has been, I don't have to tell anybody, you all know, everybody knows how difficult it has been. But in spite of it, I must say how proud I am of all of the members of council, how in spite of all of the things that we've had to deal with, we continue to work. We continue to work hard. We didn't take a step back. We didn't get cautious. We moved full steam ahead. I mean, you think about those issues that we had to deal with in this environment, starting with COVID. I mean, we were out there. We continue, as Councilman Thomas referenced, we're out here messaging, doing masks, all those kind of things, because COVID determines the direction of pretty much everything at this point in time. Continuing to push forward on jobs and education, just creative matters that you all have come up with. Education, we are involved in it on a day-to-day basis, sometimes way more than we should be, but we can't help ourselves because we understand how important education is at the end of the day. This whole issue with respects to gun violence, it is first and foremost on everybody's mind, regardless of where you live. I represent the most diverse district in the state, and whenever I go to a town meeting in my district, it comes up, right? this whole issue with violence, and I don't care however we want to characterize it or what we should be doing, the terms that have been used from emergency to crisis, all that. At the end of the day, we have to agree on one thing: the scope of what we're dealing with, so we can truly work together, and everybody can take a role. Everybody can take the responsibility of their role and take it to the fullest. I mean, the finger pointing is not going to get it done, right? Just get it done. The citizens expect that from us. Our neighborhood quality of life, on the significant investments that we're prepared to make, both federal, state, and local, is so important. So while I want to say that how much you all have given, and from the heart, from the soul, as hard as you guys work, the average citizen out there wants you to take it up to another level. I mean, that's just the simple reality is. They're not going to let us pat ourselves on the back and talk about how good we were and all the great we did. So as we listen to these speeches over the last 45 minutes, we have pretty much set a threshold for us to do a lot of things and a lot of good things. And I know that you all are capable of it, and we're going to take it to the next level. So we ask all the citizens to continue to lean on us, to continue to look for us to do better and better things, more things, and because we are truly the people's elected official. All due respect to everybody else, we are the front line when it comes to politics. They see us more, they have more access to us, and their expectations rise based on that ability to interact with us and to access us. So I just want to say, first and foremost, guys, thank you all. Thank you for the personal relationship. Thank you for the work you do. Enjoy the holiday because we got to get back to work in January. So whatever you want to do, be prepared to take it to the next level. All of our feet will be on the pedals. So God bless you all. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you all. We're going to continue to handle the people's business as aggressively as we can. And with that, I will recognize the whip, Councilman Jones, for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, January 20th, 2022 at 10 a.m.
Second.
Oh, wow. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carried. Thank you all very much. Love you all. See you soon.
Thanks, Prez.